I'm going to talk now about a group of people who've got EHCPs as still in draft. So they're not technically at phase transition because they might have a child in reception or in year 6 or moving between one of the phases in the 3-tier system, but they're not technically in the transition process because they're in the needs assessment process. So they will get their school named as part of the 20-week process of getting an EHC NA. Daniela's in this situation. She's got a child in year 6 who will go to mainstream. How do parental preferences work because they've missed the deadline? Will we struggle to find a school who could take on another EHCP at this point? Morgan, you're at assessment stage. You've been told to look at local schools, but you can't visit. It's a really difficult one, isn't it? You can't get to visit because you haven't got an EHCP, or they're not doing visits, but you need to go and visit.
We've got a really good blog for that, though, haven't we? We've got a blog on types of schools, how to find the types of schools. We've also got another blog on questions to ask when you are visiting schools, and also with additional how you can kind of like get into schools using friends. If they've got events on the school, you can at least go in. So use those blogs, because that will be really, really helpful. We've also got a featured post on the group. If you go to the featured, it has our blog at the front, which is questions to ask the school. In the comments of that blog, that particular post on the featured post on the group, we give you links to specialist independent schools and how to find those. So if you are looking for schools, that would be a really good place to get some information.
Yeah. And Morgan's saying that that they're in draft at the moment. So how do they go? What is the process for them getting a school named, considering they're not in the phase transition? Natasha as well is waiting for a draft and for the local authority to send it off to the school of choice. Will it hinder my child achieving a place as its first come first served basis on posts? Right. Let's summarize the answers to those queries. Okay. If you are in draft, still on the 15th of February, you haven't got a school named, and you want a special school, you're right. Yes, the places in special schools are going to have gone by the 15th of February. The local authority will have allocated all those special school places. They're not going to sat there saying, well, we'll keep 5 here and 5 there and 5 for those children who are sitting in draft. So the chances of getting a special school named after the 15th of February, it does diminish. But remember, being full is not a legal reason not to accept a child. It's a much, much higher legal test to say, no, we can't meet needs. It's about meeting needs in section F. So you need to, Sarah said, go use the blog about finding schools, asking schools questions. How do I find a school? There's 2 blogs there. Find out what school you want, or schools, and when you send back the response to your draft EHCP, any time up to finalising, to be fair, you name your parental preference school to your local authority. That's how you name your parental. You do it when you send the response to the draft back, or as soon as possible after that, because the local authority will be consulting schools. And from that point forward, when they name a school and you get a plan, you're in exactly the same situation as anyone else. You are considered phase transition now if your child is moving school, and your right of appeal starts the minute you get that final plan. If you're not happy, you put in an appeal and you flag up to the local authority that your child is nursery, reception, year 6, whatever year in the 3-tier system that they're moving on, and therefore you are phase transition and you need an earlier hearing. It might be if you end up having to appeal, but your plan isn't finalised for a while, it might be that you are delayed and you end up with an appeal hearing in September, October, November. You might be late. Other things you can think about doing in the meantime, if your child is going into reception, they don't start school until the term after their 5th birthday, so you might choose not to send them until the term after their 5th birthday. You might choose to keep them in their nursery provision until the term after their 5th birthday. You might choose to work with your local authority about deferring their place for a whole year. Look in our YouTube channels, we've got options on deferment of places starting in reception in YouTube. If you're in year 6 and moving to year 7, it's a bit difficult. You will be expected for your child to start at that named school. I think this might be a question coming later, but you will be expected for them to start. And if they're not able to start at that school because it can't meet needs, you're going to be able to need to evidence that they can't attend for medical anxiety or any other reason. And then you're going to have to work with your local authority to get alternative provision in place in the meantime. But it's tricky. I'm sorry for those of you that are still in draft and in phase transition, because you've got 2 processes running side by side, and they're competing processes in some ways. They're certainly not complementary. And I'm sorry, I feel for you. This is hard enough if you're just in one of those processes and you're in both at the same time. Use the group, use our bespoke meeting offer if you really need help to unpick a tricky situation.